the coronavirus pandemic. Joining me right now, Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, Democrat from Pennsylvania. She serves on both the Judiciary and Financial Services Committees. I'm glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. As we understand it, despite what we heard a snippet of there from Nancy Pelosi and previously Chuck Schumer, Democrats and administration officials still seem to be worlds apart. Do you expect both parties will be able to come together and strike a deal?
I certainly hope so. We were finished yesterday with our work on Capitol Hill, but we are on call to come back at any time, and I hope it's sooner rather than later. When you think about it, it was yesterday that the moratorium on evictions has expired, as well as the federal unemployment compensation. I just don't understand how Senate Republicans can go home and not worry about the families that are going off a cliff, a financial cliff, as we face this extraordinary pandemic over which we have no control.
So I'm curious what the big sticking point is. Is it the amount? Is it $600? And if that's the case, would compromise be better than nothing, even a lower amount for those Americans that right now will get nothing if this doesn't get resolved?
There's so much more in the package than unemployment compensation, but that is certainly a critical part. Republicans had suggested maybe we should guarantee or provide 70% of a person's former income. These are millions of families out of work through no fault of their own. They don't have 70% expenses as a result of that. Their rent didn't go down 30%. Their mortgage didn't go down 30%. Their food costs didn't go down. So I don't understand that kind of a notion. The other idea of giving sort of some short term, a couple of weeks, that's not how a federal government should respond in a pandemic. The House passed in May the HEROES Act that would have, of course, extended unemployment compensation. It would have included direct payments to families. I introduced a bill that is payments for the people. After all, this should be about the people. Direct cash to people continuing during this pandemic. Instead, the Republicans put forth little or nothing. The other thing that is in this bill, our bill, that I hope will make sure we get across the finish line is the protection of our elections. We had $3.6 billion in the bill to protect our elections, mail-in ballots for people so that they can safely vote from home. There's an awful lot in here. Support for the post office is critical. None of this is by accident that the administration and Senate Republicans are sitting on their hands. Mitch McConnell said, let's wait and see. When we passed the HEROES Act, that was his response. Let's wait and see. Well, here's what we see. People going off the cliff because they don't have unemployment compensation. They don't have protection from evictions.
In terms of this conversation, we have to reference the president, as you know, who tweeted Thursday about possibly delaying the November election, something that he does not have the power to do. It is something both Democrats and Republicans in Congress have said, no, they have shot that down. Why tweet it? Is it a distraction, or is he trying to sow the seeds of doubt on the validity of this election because he's worried he might lose?
All of the above, Alex. He's losing. He knows it. He's in a panic. He actually tweeted that the day we buried John Lewis. Imagine that. A civil rights hero, a hero for human rights, for people's rights, for voting rights. The president is in a panic because he knows he's losing. He's in a panic because he's also losing lives of American people. 155,000 Americans are dead, and he has failed to lead. So what does he do? Sow confusion, sow doubt, sow fear. He's been incompetent, and so all he can do now is strike out and use others around him, like Attorney General Barr, to sow doubt and to actually attack with pepper ball spray protesters, bringing their grievances to our government.
You mentioned Attorney General Barr. I want to play part of your pretty contentious exchange with him. It was about the use of chemicals to clear protesters in Lafayette Park before the president's photo op. Let's play that.
When asked about the use of pepper bombs fired at Americans in Lafayette Square, you said, quote, no, there were no chemical irritants. Pepper spray is not a chemical irritant. It's not chemical, quote.
Well, everything is chemical. I was referring to a dichotomy,
Actually,
in these kinds of things between
Mr.
chemical
Attorney General,
compounds and naturally occurring
Mr.
substances.
Attorney General, reclaiming my time. There are rules by which we operate here. I would ask you to respect them.
So what was your takeaway from your questioning of the Attorney General? Did he contradict himself there?
Yes, and that was the theme of his testimony. You saw that on, I think it was Face the Nation, he had said no chemicals were used. It's not chemical. I showed him the definition of what a pepper ball is. It is an instrument by which chemical irritants are deployed with blunt force trauma. So while his words said it's not chemical, he stood there and said, of course it's chemical. Everything's chemical. He did that over and over, claiming both sides or speaking out of both sides of his mouth. I don't know why he thinks that's effective. And it's very puzzling for the top law enforcement officer of our country to be so imprecise.
Can I ask you what the big takeaway was from that hearing? And I don't want to put it in terms of did one side or the other win? Did Congress members that were asking questions win? Did the Attorney General win? It's not like that. There were a number of people with whom I spoke afterwards who said it was just kind of ugly on all sides.
No, it was. It was sad and it was ugly. And the behavior of the Attorney General, the difficulty to get him to answer in a straight way. Nobody won. And what I think it revealed was the American people are losing. We are losing control over the rule of law. You know, at John Lewis's funeral, President Barack Obama spoke about democracy, that it's a precious and fragile thing, that it's something that needs tending to. That's what I think that hearing was about. We have to tend to our rule of law. We have to tend to our Constitution, value it, and hold it preciously. And those who do not must be put out of office. They are a danger to our democracy, to our lives, our livelihoods, and the life of our democracy.
Let me ask you one more question. It's regarding your colleague, Louis Gohmert, the Texas congressman who tested positive for coronavirus this week, and he was seen around Capitol Hill almost immediately before coming forth with that news, walking around without a mask and fraternizing with other members of Congress and the like. Why is it that Congress does not have a rapid testing system in place like the White House does? Shouldn't it?
You know, I've heard Speaker Pelosi speak about this, and her point was that just to have rapid testing for us, members of Congress, seems awfully inequitable until we have rapid testing for everybody. And I'm thinking of the staff who stand there all day long as we go in and out to vote, or we go in and out of committees. Louis Gohmert is just one of many irresponsible, willfully ignorant members of the other side. Take a look at that dais when we were in the hearings or the markups in judiciary, with Jim Jordan, the ranking member, sitting next to Jerry Nadler, most of the time not wearing a mask for hours on hours. Mr. Johnson, the same thing, scoffing and holding up his cup of coffee. My constituents want serious lawmakers. My constituents want people who will lead, who will protect others from the possibility of the spread. How this mask thing became an issue, to the irresponsibility and to the lives, to the deaths of many Americans, I will never understand. But we will hopefully get control over it because we'll do the right thing. We just need to do a measure of the right thing when other leaders fail to lead.
Sounds to me like your constituents are asking exactly the right and legitimate questions. Congresswoman Madeleine Dean, good to see you. Thank you so much.